Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the coolest and most strategic paths in Honkai, Star Rail, the Path of Nihility. If you've ever pulled a new character and thought, wait, what's their path and why does it matter? Then you're in the right place. The path is like the heart and soul of any character's kit in this game. It's what defines their role in your team, whether they're a hard-hitting DPS, a reliable support, or, in the case of Nihility, a master of debuffs and damage over time. Now, Nihility is one of the meta-defining paths for clearing that tough endgame content, but not every Nihility character is created equal. Some will absolutely carry your team, spreading debuffs like wildfire and whittling down enemies with brutal DOT effects. Others, well, they might leave you wondering if you could have spent your Stellar Jade better elsewhere. So, let's break down every Nihility character, talk about what makes them shine, and see who truly deserves a spot on your roster. Buckle up, Trailblazers, this is going to be fun! I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching! Alright, let's talk about Sampo, one of the most unique 4-star Nihility characters in Honkai Star Rail. If you're a fan of quirky characters and love watching your enemies slowly crumble under debuffs, Sampo is your guy. His playstyle is centered around DOT, or damage over time, for those of you new to the lingo. This isn't your typical big numbers instantly kind of damage. Instead, Sampo works like a slow burn, applying wind shear stacks to his enemies and letting them take consistent damage every turn. Sounds cool, right? Well, it's not all smooth sailing. Here's the deal. While Sampo can maintain up to 5 wind shear stacks on enemies, which is impressive for those one-on-one or small-scale battles, the raw damage numbers aren't exactly meta-breaking. Don't get me wrong, watching the DOT chip away at your enemies is satisfying, but it won't have you steamrolling bosses or dominating high-end content. However, he does have some surprising synergy with certain teammates. Pair him with characters like Kafka who can trigger extra damage from debuffs, and suddenly, Sampo's kit feels a lot more impactful. It's all about the team comp, folks. In the grand scheme of Nihility characters, Sampo sits in an interesting spot. He's not the flashiest or the strongest, but he brings a unique flavor to the table. If you enjoy a strategic approach to battles, spreading debuffs, and stacking damage over time, Sampo can be a fun addition to your roster. Just make sure to build a team around him that complements his playstyle. Otherwise, you might find yourself wondering why he's doing less damage than your other DPS characters. But hey, sometimes it's about style over substance, and Sampo's got that in spades. Let's dive into Welt, the 5-star Nihility veteran who brought the imaginary element to life in Honkai Star Rail. When the game first dropped, Welt was an absolute favorite, especially for newer players. His ability to slow enemies and delay their turns made early battles feel like a breeze. Add in his knack for breaking weakness bars on imaginary weak enemies, and you've got a character who feels like a tactical genius, at least in the early game. As you progress into tougher challenges like Memory of Chaos or the Simulated Universe, though, Welt starts to lose some of his shine. The reason? He's a bit of a jack of all trades, but master of none. While his ability to manipulate enemy turns is undeniably useful, he doesn't pack the punch of a true DPS character, nor does he bring the kind of damage-boosting debuffs that make other Nihility units stand out in the meta. Basically, he's a great utility piece, but he won't carry your team in the late game. That said, Welt still has his niche. If you enjoy a control-heavy playstyle or you're up against enemies weak to imaginary damage, he can be a solid pick. Just don't expect him to obliterate the competition like Kafka or Silver Wolf might. He's more of a thinking man's Nihility unit, slowing the pace of battle and giving your team the breathing room to plan their moves. Sometimes, strategy over raw power is all you need to win the day. Let's talk about Luca, the 4-star physical Nihility unit who's been making waves in Honkai Star Rail, especially for fans of DOT strategies. Luca's all about applying bleed, a DOT effect that chips away at an enemy's HP over time. Whether it's through his skill or by breaking shields, Luca's bleed can remove up to a whopping 24% of an enemy's max HP if his ATK is built high enough. And if that wasn't enough, he can trigger bleed on demand with his enhanced basic attack. A character with style and substance? Count us in. The real magic happens when you stack break effect on Luca. If you're consistently breaking enemy shields, you'll witness some jaw-dropping numbers as bleed damage ticks away during enemy turns or when Luca lands his enhanced basic attack. He's perfect for those who love a strategic edge in battle, especially in scenarios where shield breaking plays a pivotal role. Pair him with the right teammates like Ruin Mei who can delay weakness recovery, and you've got a synergy that feels borderline unfair. Luca may not be the flashiest or the strongest in raw DPS, but his utility and DOT potential make him a star in his own right. If you're a fan of seeing enemies crumble under relentless debuffs while you set up for bigger plays, Luca is a fantastic addition to your team. Just make sure to gear him up with Break Effect and watch him shine in battles where every tick of damage counts. Let's talk about Ganen, the fiery 4-star Nihility unit who's here to set the battlefield ablaze, literally. She's another DOT specialist in Honkai Star Rail, but what sets her apart is her versatility as both a debuffer and a sub-DPS. Ganen can apply burn with her basic attack to single enemies or spread the heat to up to 3 foes with her skill. And when it's time to turn up the temperature, her ultimate can instantly trigger all burn effects on an enemy, dealing massive damage in a flash. But here's where Ganen really shines: her Fire Kiss talent. This ability makes enemies take up to 21% more damage from all sources, making her a fantastic support for high damage teammates. If you manage to snag her final Eidolon, this debuff cranks up to 28%, which is just insane for amplifying team damage. Whether you're melting through tough enemies or setting up for a big nuke from your DPS, Ganen ensures everyone's hits land harder. So, if you're looking for a character who can do more than just apply DOT, Ganen is a solid choice. She brings the heat with her burns while boosting your entire team's potential. Whether you slot her in as a sub-DPS or a supportive debuffer, she'll add a spark to your battles that's hard to ignore. Just make sure to build her for effectiveness and watch your enemies go up in smoke. Silver Wolf, the 5-star quantum powerhouse, was an absolute game-changer when she first dropped in Honkai Star Rail. The community went wild because her skill could implant a weakness in an enemy that matches one of your party members' combat types. This not only opens up a whole new world of elemental exploitation, but it also reduces the enemy's DMG RES against that combat type, making them way easier to hit. Early on, this was a huge deal, especially when DPS units were still a bit limited, and Silver Wolf's ability felt like a guaranteed win in many situations. However, as the game evolved and more characters joined the roster, Silver Wolf's value began to dwindle. As more heroes capable of reducing enemy weaknesses regardless of combat type were introduced, characters like Shui started making Silver Wolf's once unique skill set less essential. It's a tough break for a character who started so strong, but in the ever-evolving world of Honkai, Star Rail, meta shifts happen and Silver Wolf's niche has become a bit harder to capitalize on. That said, Silver Wolf is still a fun and potent character if you're building around her specific strengths. She can still shine in certain team compositions and scenarios where manipulating weaknesses is key, but she does need the right setup to perform at her best. While her days as the ultimate weakness-dealing machine may be behind her, she can still hold her own in the right hands. So, if you've got Silver Wolf, don't give up on her just yet. She's still got some tricks up her sleeve. Alright folks, let's talk about Kafka, the 5-star Lightning Nihility unit who completely changed the game when she was released. Kafka's arrival was a game-changer for DOT-based teams, which were previously considered one of the weakest playstyles in Honkai Star Rail. But with Kafka in the mix, DOT became one of the most powerful strategies. What makes her so special? Well, her ability to trigger all DOTs applied to an enemy using both her skill and ultimate is absolutely massive. This gives you a ton of potential for devastating damage, especially when you build your team around her. When you properly support Kafka, you can set up some crazy damage bursts. Not only do the enemies take a serious hit when Kafka uses her skill or ultimate, but they also get wrecked every time it's their turn, thanks to the DOTs ticking away. It's a beautiful sight to behold when everything aligns and the enemies are just melting under constant DOT effects. The secret to maximizing her potential? Pair her with another DOT character and stack Break Effect. That way, you can take full advantage of her instant DOT triggers, making sure every hit counts. Kafka is the heart and soul of any DOT-based team, turning what was once considered a weak playstyle into an absolute powerhouse. If you've got her, you're in for some explosive battles where enemies are doomed to suffer from the damage over time. With the right team and the right build, Kafka can carry you through some of the toughest challenges in the game, so get ready to watch the sparks fly, and the HP bars drop fast. Let's talk about Black Swan, the 5-star wind unit who came out of nowhere in version 2.0 of Honkai Star Rail and quickly became one of the top DPS units in the game. She's not just any character, she's the first 5-star from Penacony, and her kit is built to do some serious damage. Black Swan can stack Arcana on enemies whenever she uses her skill, basic attack, or even when enemies interact with DOTs from other characters. These Arcana stacks are essentially ticking time bombs, waiting to go off at the start of the enemy's turn and dealing massive damage. But here's where Black Swan really shines. While those Arcana stacks can deal crazy damage over time, you can also trigger them instantly if you team her up with characters like Kafka. This synergy allows you to take full advantage of her potential, creating devastating bursts of damage. But the real kicker is that Black Swan's damage output is often so high that most enemies are defeated before you even have to rely on those Arcana triggers. She's so powerful that the fight might already be over before you get the chance to see her ultimate move in action. Black Swan's dominance as a DPS character is no fluke. Her ability to stack and trigger Arcana, combined with her insane damage potential, makes her an absolute monster in any team. Whether you're taking down bosses or mowing through mobs, she can make short work of your enemies. Pair her up with other DOT or synergy characters, and you've got a winning combo that can tear through any challenge in Honkai Star Rail. Q, the 5-star Fire Nihility unit, is a true gem in both Honkai Star Rail's lore and its gameplay. Introduced during a continuance mission, he quickly established himself as one of the best Nihility characters. What sets Q apart is his ability to apply debuffs to enemies whenever they take a turn, which makes him an excellent fit for Acheron and a powerful support for many other characters. This debuffing mechanic is fantastic for ensuring your enemies stay vulnerable, while your team dishes out the damage. But that's not all. Q can also boost the ultimate DMG of his party members, making him an invaluable asset to any team that relies on high-powered ultimates. While he might feel a bit niche in the current meta, especially when the focus is on other types of DPS, Q's future-proof nature makes him a character who will rise in value as more ultimate-based DPS units are introduced. His ability to enhance the damage output of his teammates makes him a perfect pick for future-proofing your team's overall power. Q may not be at the forefront of the meta right now, but he's definitely a character you want to keep an eye on. His synergy with debuff-heavy teams and his potential to amplify ultimate DMG makes him a fantastic pick for both current and future team comps. If you're building a team that revolves around massive burst damage, Q is the kind of character who will help you hit those high notes. Pella, the 4-star Ice Nihility unit, has been a core part of Honkai Star Rail since the very beginning, and for good reason. Her kit is built around some fantastic utility that can benefit any team. First, her ultimate is a game changer. It massively reduces the DIF of all enemies, making them much more vulnerable to damage. But that's not all. Pella's skill can remove enemy buffs, keeping your opponents from getting too powerful, and she can quickly recharge her ultimate thanks to one of her bonus abilities. This makes her incredibly reliable when you need to lower enemy defense and turn the tide of battle in your favor. What really sets Pella apart is how rare it is to find characters who can reduce enemy DF. In a game where defense can make or break a fight, Pella's ability to shred that defense makes her an invaluable asset in almost every team comp. On top of that, if you manage to break an enemy's weakness with her attacks, you can freeze them, causing them to skip their turn. This gives your team a precious breather, allowing you to control the pace of the fight and protect your characters from taking hits. While Pella might not be the flashiest character on the roster, her utility in lowering DEF, removing buffs, and freezing enemies makes her a cornerstone of many solid team setups. If you've got her in your lineup, you're looking at a reliable support character who can handle multiple roles, from debuffing enemies to controlling the battlefield. Whether you're taking on tough bosses or dealing with mobs, Pella is the kind of character who can help you keep things in check. Fugue, the 5-star Fire Nihility unit, is a perfect example of how the Honkai Star Rail developers know how to push the meta to the next level. If break-based playstyles weren't already dominating, Fugue comes in with a unique mechanic that adds an extra toughness bar to every enemy, making it easier for your team to land high break DMG. This is huge because it lets your allies break through enemy defenses even faster, resulting in some serious damage potential. But that's not all. Fugue is also fantastic for boosting your team's overall damage output. Similar to Harmony Trailblazer, she gives all her allies the ability to deal significant super break DMG when attacking weakness-broken enemies. So, not only are you breaking through toughness faster, but you're also hitting harder when it counts. Plus, Fugue herself isn't just a support character. She can hold her own, dealing decent damage with her ultimate and buffed basic attack. Fugue truly takes break-based teams to new heights. Her ability to give enemies that extra toughness bar and amplify your team's damage makes her a top-tier pick for any squad focused on breaking through enemies quickly and efficiently. With her solid personal damage output and utility for the whole team, Fugue is one character you definitely want on your side if you're looking to tear through opponents with ease. Acheron, the 5-star Lightning Nihility character, was a game-changer when she arrived with the version 2.1 update. Unlike many of the other Nihility DPS units that focus on DOT mechanics, Acheron broke the mold by requiring a crit-based build, which made her a unique and exciting addition to the roster. Her rapid rise to the top as one of the best Nihility characters isn't by accident. When you trigger her ultimate correctly, the damage numbers she puts out are absolutely staggering, leaving enemies in the dust. However, Acheron does have a bit of a learning curve. She needs the right team to truly shine, especially if you have her at 0 Eidolons. But once you've built a solid squad around her, she becomes a powerhouse that can easily wipe out enemies, even those who don't have a lightning weakness. The key to unlocking her full potential lies in pairing her with the right allies who can support her crit-based playstyle and ensure her ultimates hit hard when it matters most. Acheron is a character who rewards careful team building, but the payoff is definitely worth it. Her ability to deal massive damage with her ultimate and the flexibility to take down even enemies without a lightning weakness makes her an excellent pick for anyone looking to dominate with a crit-based DPS. Once you get her set up right, Acheron can quickly become your go-to character for dismantling tough opponents. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.